Welcome back. It is always a good day. When I wake up, I give thanks, and the realization washes over me that I am allowed to introduce you to another very cool human being who is on a great new path in his life. In just a moment, I'll introduce Brian. First, I just want to say big shout out to all of my top cities. St. Louis, I don't know what's going on, but the next room is huge there. It has been like that over the last few weeks. So I just want to say thank you so much to all the people that are listening in St. Louis. Also, San Francisco is a top market. Toronto has been very, very strong for me the last few weeks. Sydney, Australia, you guys are always there for me. Baltimore, and then El Cajon. So big shout out to all my top cities. The next room, it is about what is next in life. Some people believe in afterlife, some people do not, and that doesn't really matter. This show is about death, dying, grief, afterlife, cultural traditions. It's where death is dinner conversation. My guest today is an old friend of mine that I met in 1980 going to broadcasting school in Detroit. His name is Brian Maloney. And Brian and I, remarkably, are now working together once again 40 years later after we were on the AAA Traffic and Icicle Network in Detroit, Michigan. So welcome to the next room, Brian. I appreciate you putting yourself out there and allowing me to be able to talk to you about what you're doing with the Sonic Coast.
Absolutely. And love what you're doing with the next room. I've been following it since we reconnected a few months ago. And great work and an interesting space to be in, and one that provokes a lot of great conversation. So happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I think the first time that you and I had a conversation, because we had not talked in, I don't know, 40 years, right?
Yeah,
And then, of
yeah.
course, our mutual friend, Nancy Schoenheid, said, you should give Asher a call and see if she wants to get involved because she still loves music, right? So let's talk about the thing that you said to me the very first time that we talked. Why did you retire from being a vice president of a big bunch of radio stations in Raleigh, North Carolina? Why the pivot to leaving something so secure and safe with, I'm guessing, a pretty sizable paycheck to doing something like you're doing right now?
Yeah. So went from riches to rags, as they say, or whatever. But no, it was, look, I'm very fortunate and very blessed that I was in a position where I could dial it way, way, way back. But as I mentioned to you, I absolutely, one thing somebody told me many years ago is I doubt very much on your deathbed that you will say, damn it, I wish I would have worked another day. Uh, and that really resonated with me for many years, to the point where in my early 50s or about 50, I said, you know what, I'm going to really hustle and try and wrap this up by 60, what I'm doing now. And by the way, I loved what I did. I had an absolutely wonderful run in broadcasting. I couldn't have been luckier. I worked for great people, great companies. But at the same time, man, you know, everybody knows COVID was the great accelerator. So I think the 3 years felt like 30. Um, and my goal was 60, and I was able to hit it. And now it's time for me and my family. And because I realize, the time left, I'm 60, look, who knows? Could be 5 years, 5 days, 10, 20, 30 years, who knows?
Right.
But I decided, the time is limited, and I want to spend it how I want to spend it and with who I want to spend it with.
I
So,
love that. I love that. And I think it takes a lot of courage to leave behind maybe what you've always known and what is super secure, to kind of throw yourself out there to do something very creative, but very passionate and something close to your heart, like what you're doing right now. I mean, in 2016, I had to read up a little bit. You were like nominated one of the top general managers in the country in radio. Pretty impressive stats for you, and what a career you've had. Okay, so now you don't want to die in a suit and tie. I appreciate that for a girl who sits in her studio, usually with, I don't know, boxer shorts and barefoot.
And
Uh,
love the attire today, the
yeah,
Michigan shout out there.
thank you. Thank you. Got that on. Let's talk about the Sonic Coast because I am someone who has always been looking and listening for new music constantly. Um, I just have never grown tired of what is next and what is new. And it's very exciting for me whenever I hear, like, if I'm watching a TV show and I hear a song I like, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? What is it? I have to have that. I've got to create a playlist of new music. And so here you are, you did this amazing pivot from the corporate side of things to where now let's talk about the Sonic Coast. Exactly what is it? Where did it come from? And what are your goals for this incredible streaming app?
Well, it ties back to that realization, as I aged in my 50s, like, hey, man, I don't want to keep doing this forever. I want time for me. And so I wanted to pick something that I was really passionate about, and it's always been music. And I've always had a great love for my home state of Michigan. And Jane, you know this, being from Michigan, that the state is just got such a rich history musically, not only historically, but just the amount of new music and fresh ideas that come out of Michigan now. It's just you just can't find it anywhere else. So I decided, look, I'm going to give back now to my home state. And in my career, I've been fortunate to work with many artists, as you have. And my favorite have always been the ones that are really trying to make it, the ones that have the grit and the drive, and are doing it for all the right reasons. And so I wanted to build a platform to give those bands and artists an exposure. And so that's why I launched the Sonic Coast, and grateful that you're a part of it. By the way, she probably won't plug herself, but you can hear Jane weekdays 10 to 3 Eastern on the Sonic Coast, and download the free app.
Yeah,
How's that for a plug?
that's a good plug. I have to say that it has literally been my absolute pleasure because, this is a girl who is kind of surrounded about the end game in life, right? And music is very now, and it is very much in the present mind awareness. And I think that doing a show about death and every facet of death just makes me live a lot more in awareness, I guess. Uh,
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah, because every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm still here. What am I going to do today to make it a good day? And for me, learning is huge. Like, I love to learn. And so what's happened for me with the Sonic Coast is this exposure to all of this music that I had no idea. Yes, I knew my home state has always been so rich with music, but the new music that I'm getting turned on
Yeah.
to through working on the Sonic Coast is an absolute gas. I am like, where's this music been all my life?
Yeah.
So it's been very, very fun for me. So thanks for bringing me on board and allowing me to be even more creative as I sit in my little studio and really, truly to do something new and exciting. I mean, sometimes death can get heavy. There's a lot of grief on the planet, and obviously this show covers a lot of grief. So this is the lighter side of the next room. How do you find all of this music, or is the music finding you?
A little bit of both. I mean, I definitely seek out music and listen. It's probably where I spend most of my time with the Sonic Coast, is looking, digging, listening. But, since we launched in mid-September, I think within the first 24, 48 hours, I had 30 bands from Michigan reach out to me. And these were good bands, Jane. These were really talented people and artists. And you just don't find that anywhere else. Now, I know you mentioned St. Louis is one of your, you have a lot of people in St. Louis listening. And let me tell you, St. Louis is an absolutely outstanding music town. We can start with Chuck Berry, but the list goes on from there. But Yeah, Michigan is unique, and so I spend a lot of time listening, but I also get approached by a lot of people now, and that's really gratifying. Um, because like I said, I think I mentioned this to you too in one of our conversations. Uh, you were worried about what to say or how to sound or whatever on the air, and I just like, it doesn't matter, man. This is it. This is it for us. This is probably our last hurrah in this space. All right. And that's okay. So let's have fun
Right,
with it. Let's
right.
cherish it. Let's live in it. Let's celebrate it. But I look, I'm no dummy. I'm 60 years old. I hope I get to do this for a long time. But look, it's probably the last rodeo. So I'm gonna love every minute of it. And I
Yeah.
don't mean that in a bad way. It's just
No,
hey, look,
no.
I'm 61 years old in 2 weeks and
Right.
giddy up, man.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, I'm 62. I never hide that fact because for me, aging is a privilege. I have had many, many friends that have not been afforded the privilege to say that they hit the tender age of 62. And for me, I just giggle and laugh thinking, right on, I get to play music at this age, and I bring a world and wealth of information along with me because of the years that I've spent in the broadcast industry. And I've been privileged to meet so many very cool people. So it's great to be able to weave in little stories. I love the one about Willie Nelson when I got to meet him. I mean, it was just, we were sitting on his bus backstage. Backstage, his big bus was there, and we we're sitting in his living room, and all of a sudden, he's in the back, and the door opens, and billows of
Of
smoke.
smoke, just like you would picture it, right?
Yes. And it was like he
Just like you were
walked in.
hoping for.
I know. And he had this little angelic smile and the softest ponytail. And he could not have been nicer. He was just the sweetest dude ever. How do you meet someone like that? I mean, it's still like a fairy tale to me, but I
Yeah.
can see it in my mind's eye. What an incredible talent. And I think Willie's like 90 and he's still kicking and rocking it. Can you imagine Christmas at Willie Nelson's house?
I mean,
How
I
much
can't
fun.
remember. It's hard to remember young Willie Nelson.
No,
It's like try to remember a young Keith Richards.
no, no.
I
Yeah.
mean,
No, no. How is it's just amazing. It's amazing to me too that these artists, this is good. This is a good segue. That these artists like the Stones and the two remaining Beatles, what they've done to put out that new record, and then the Stones working with the Major Baseball League and doing the Hackney Diamonds vinyl thing. It's just so cool to see these guys that are still relevant. You know, how
yeah.
how does a band stay relevant when they're in their 80s and they're still rocking like a Van Morrison?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it totally fits into what the next room's all about. Those I have asked myself this question for many years, like why is Paul McCartney out there playing shows? Why are the Stones out there? And they obviously don't need the money, at least I don't think so. But I came to this conclusion because I really wondered why would you do that? And I think they have realized at 70, 75, 80 years old, wow, how lucky am I? How special is this that I am been doing this for 60 years and I can still play all over the world and have 60, 70,000 people show up that want to hear my work, my songs. And I think honestly that the Stones and people like Paul McCartney are really doing it for all the right reasons now. They have a genuine appreciation for how lucky and gratefulness that they have toward their fans. And my God, it's unbelievable. And so anyways, that's what I've told myself is they do this because sure, the money's great, but I think they've realized at their age, as the end comes near for many of our dear rock stars, that hey man, this is something really special going on that very few people can experience. And so I think that's why you still see them out on the road today.
Yeah. You know what's great too is they're putting out great music. I mean, look at
Yeah,
Van Morrison's new record. It's extraordinary.
yeah,
And that Beatles song, you know, the first time I heard it, I was like, you know, it's okay. But then when I watched that 12-minute documentary
yeah,
on how they made it, I was like, "Phew, this
yeah.
is the coolest
Fascinating.
thing." Yeah, I sat there, I got goosebumps. I was welling up because I couldn't believe how many times they had that song. And then, but then to have the cooperation through Sean Lennon and Yoko and George Harrison's family, it was just so beautiful the way that they put that together. So now when I hear it, I see the movie as well. Um,
Yeah, I think most people heard that. They're like, all right, man, this is cool. It's the Beatles. Not my
yeah,
favorite song. But when I hear that song now, I do stop and appreciate it more because of what you said. I watched that 12-minute mini documentary on how it all came about, and it's extraordinary.
yeah,
And so now when it comes on, I listen and I have greater appreciation for it. And again, man, like I gotta believe, Paul and Ringo are thinking, why not, man? Let's make a
yeah,
Beatles record and live on forever.
exactly.
Let's drop another breadcrumb on our trail that we have blazed. And and they did, and it's I'm sure it's number one on the charts. I haven't checked, but
Yeah.
I know the Stones hit the top of the charts a couple weeks ago with their new album.
Yeah. Well, you know, music is such a universal language, and it's something that all of us, I mean, it uplifts us. When I'm bummed, you know, after someone dies, I have a death playlist that I've made
Oh,
called The Next Room.
what's all right? Give me two songs on it.
Um, well, I've got
Hate to put you on the spot, but
no, it's okay. I've got you know, Love is Stronger Than Death. I've got Warren Zevon, Keep Me in Your
oh
Heart.
yeah.
I've got Pink Floyd, So Far Away, or not Dire Straits, So Far Away, Pink Floyd, you know, you name it. I mean,
Oh
just
wow, nice.
so many, many deep tracks. I've got the Beatles on there, In My Life. I've got Jackson
Yeah.
Brown, For a Dancer. I mean, and they're not all death songs, but they're all about, I guess, living in the moment. And then there are quite a few death songs too. I mean, Pink's got a great new death song out. It was a song that she kind of wrote in tribute to her dad. Um, it's just beautiful. So yeah,
I
you know, but that for me, when someone kicks it, I want to feel sad. And so music makes me cry. And so this playlist is my go-to. I take my dog for a walk and I listen to this death playlist and I'm sobbing and everything. And also conversely, when someone else leaves, I put together a playlist just for them. I sit out here in my studio and put together a playlist like my dad actually has three playlists. So I mean
box set.
yeah, it's like soothing for me. It's
Yeah.
therapy. Music is therapeutic, whether we're in love, whether we're sad, whether we're, you know, working out, whatever it is, there's a soundtrack for everything that we do in our life. And then there's the time where you just don't listen to music when you're walking on the beach or sitting out in the backyard and you want to listen to the birds. I get that too. So um, let's talk about, you know, these old rock stars and they're still relevant. What about the ones that have left us and they have left us a legacy of music? Um, why do you feel that we're so unbelievably connected? Like when Petty died, it was like I lost my best friend.
Yeah. Well, it's everything you said, Jane. Music moves people in so many ways, while, most of us have never met, our favorite musician or rock star or whoever artist. We always feel this close connection through either the melody that they've strung together in their song, or obviously, as you said, the lyrics. And we just forge this connection. Um, I also think songs are a timestamp in our life, so when we hear a song, it reminds us of a certain period in our life. I mean, there's songs that I hear today that I can think back of when we were in Specs Howard School in Detroit. That I'm like, oh God, that song reminds me of. and I think that's why that connection. And then there is something about being gone to, in death, of reminiscing about Jim Morrison and Tom Petty and Jimi Hendrix, just that uh remembering the greatness and reflecting on, and what if they were still alive today, what would John Lennon be doing,
Mm,
so I think there's all of those things. But the connection that music has is truly phenomenal.
it really is. What's next for the Sonic Coast? What are
Well,
your, like, what magic wand time?
one thing I need to be careful with is I don't want to get back in the same boat that I was, where I was just, working, working, working. And
Ah,
so I'm trying to be very cautious about um, doing as much as I want to do, and not burning out on it, and trying to regulate myself. So right now I'm just trying to find things that I can do that are impactful with the project, the Sonic Coast, while not all consuming me. Now it's much different when you're doing it for yourself and you don't have corporate pressure on you, and you're not responsible for 100+ employees or anything like that. So, but look, it's hopefully people will discover it. Hopefully people will like it. Um, and hopefully it will move people and touch people for all the reasons we've talked about here today, about the connection of music. So that's my hope. And look, if somebody discovers a band they didn't know, then we've done our work, Gene. If somebody says, wow, I never knew about them and I love that song, then we have been successful. So, and I think we've already done that in a short
oh yeah.
time.
Yeah,
We've
definitely.
we both have discovered great new music.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My brother my brother loves, his old school bands, loves Seeger and the Allman Brothers, and he really is a classic rock guy, right? So now his little sister is on this, new streaming app, and he downloaded it and he brought his little Bluetooth speaker to work, and he's been listening, and he sent me the coolest text. He said, I can't believe that I'm getting turned on to all of this new music. He said,
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying it. And it was funny because when I was home and I was hanging out with him in Michigan not too long ago, um, he was like, well, you know me, I like my classic rock. I'll give it a try because you're going to be working there. But for him to be now turned on to new music, yeah. And he's going to be 65 in a few days. So
awesome.
it is really
Good for him.
cool. Yeah, very cool to turn people on to new music. So if you're wondering what the Sonic Coast is, this is just a shameless plug for the soniccoast.com. And the great thing about it too, that I've heard from friends that are listening in Santa Barbara and friends that are listening in Hawaii, and I've got friends in Australia, um, they have said that it's, they are digging it, even though it is very focused, like, a very vast amount of the music is from Michigan. They're getting turned on to bands. You don't have to be from Michigan to dig this radio
No,
station
not at
at
all.
all. So, but
You
there are
know,
so
it
many, yeah.
While it may seem like a shameless plug, and I do hope everybody downloads the Sonic Coast app at iOS and Android versions available. It it really, Jane, and you know this, it's a story about uh, passion. It's a story about giving back. It's a story about my last hurrah.
Mm,
So it all relates to the next room. So I'm not that ashamed of the plugs that we have
no.
given.
No, not at all. That's why I wanted to have you on. And I also really love that you had the courage to pivot from a safe space into an unknown and do something new and creative. And it brings the whole thing full circle, is we are never too old to try something new.
No,
I mean, and that's what I love. I'm in a creative community where I encourage people all the time. It's like, don't die with your song inside of you, whether it is painting taking a painting class, to learning a language, to writing a book, to, being a DJ on the Sonic Coast, to whatever it is, whatever creative thing that you have thought you wanted to do, but you didn't do, why wait? Do it now.
What
Because
have you
then,
got to lose? Right?
exactly,
You got
exactly. There's absolutely, absolutely. It's
nothing to
so
lose.
absolutely important to really kind of embrace whatever it is that you think that you love, but that you've been afraid to try because of failing. There is no such thing as fail. Who cares? You know?
Fail fast, move on,
Yep,
learn,
absolutely.
no doubt.
So, what do you think? And this is a question I like to ask a lot of people that come on the show. Do you have any concept or idea or wish or hope for what is next when you are done with, as you've put it, your final hurrah? This last chapter of your life, when you do drop the meat suit and transfer energies, what are you hoping for?
Uh, just that I've left some kind of mark uh in the whatever decades that I'll be around, that I've left some kind of positive impact, whether it be former employees that I've worked with, whether it be friends, certainly my kids, my grandson, that I left some kind of positive impact for them, that they can reflect and say, man, I always like grandpa, or I always like dad because dot dot dot. Really, that's all I want. It's so funny. uh I got a birthday coming up here in a couple weeks, and my kids, what do you want? I'm like, I just really don't need anything anymore. I really don't want anything anymore.
Right.
It's just funny, you get to that age, you just want happiness, you want people to be happy, you cherish your time, your family. um so it's all changed dramatically in the past 10 years for me. I'm
Yeah.
in a good space.
Yeah. Well said. I mean, we don't need more stuff. I'm constantly donating the stuff I have. I
Yeah,
look around my house, I'm like, because I'm a minimalist too. I do not like, other than books, I happen to have a lot of books, and pictures framed of people that I love. Those are probably my two big things that I do collect. But other than that, it's like, it weights you down. It's like you want the experience of being with your loved ones, like you were talking about your sons and your grandson. I mean, how lucky are you to have that little guy to hang out with? And
yeah,
that's
it's
that's the
wonderful.
that's the important thing. My guest today is Brian Maloney. He is the curator and King Poobah of the Sonic Coast. Please do me a favor, all of you Next Room listeners and fans, if you like what I've been doing here, you know, do me a favor and like my next chapter, which is the Sonic Coast, because it's been so much fun, to be able to express myself around my passion and love, which has always been music. So please download it. It'd be great for Brian to call me in a couple weeks and say, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe the downloads we're getting on the Sonic Coast."
Come
So
on, Toronto. Come on,
yeah,
St. Louis, San
yeah.
Francisco.
Let's go, El Cajon. Let's go. Let's do it. How about, and I've got a good friend in Sydney too. So we would
Okay,
love to
nice.
see that. That would be fun. And that's the great thing about streaming these days. It has leveled the playing field for creatives like yourself. You don't have to, we're not limited by the one little area that we're in. Anyone anywhere on the planet that has a smartphone that can download the app can listen and send us a little message through the shout out app and say, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
listening."
There's
So
really never been more opportunity for creation of whatever you like to create. I mean, if you like to make crafts and cool stuff, there's Etsy, man. You've got a worldwide stage platform distribution method.
yeah,
If podcasting is your thing, or radio or whatever, it really, there's no excuse anymore.
no, there really isn't. You just got,
Right? I
yep,
mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm helping about four friends right now start podcasts. We're like, I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it is so easy.
not
Just,
hard.
no, just find out what it is that you're passionate about and just open up the microphone and have a conversation. It's really, really fun. And I think, too, the more that you can be unique about your approach to it, I mean, everyone has got something that they're passionate about. So it's really, those are good words, Brian. Thank you. Good words to live by. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Well, the only thing that just popped in my head, Jane, was find something you're passionate about, and you'll be surprised. And what a wonderful feeling it is when you find people that are passionate about something that you are. It's a wonderful feeling. And just to kind of wrap it up and come full circle, I remember distinctively, vividly to this day, when we attended Specs Howard School. I came out of high school and all of my friends were going to college. And, I was asked that awkward, where are you going? And I'm going to Specs Howard School. But what I'm getting at here is when I was surrounded by people at Specs Howard that were passionate, they all loved what I loved. I'd never experienced that before. And to me, that was the most special takeaway from that chapter in my life, was this realization, like, oh my God, there are other people in this world that are passionate about music and radio like I am. And what a thrill it is to be around them all every day. And that was a wonderful feeling. And I think you can still get that when you seek out what you're passionate about and be surrounded by other people that like fly fishing or
Right.
whatever it might be. So
Right. Yeah, beautiful. Well said. And so I guess we better just dedicate this entire show to Dick Kernan,
yes, God,
because
rest in peace, Dick.
the ultimate king. He is just one of the most charming, lovely, amazing human beings I've ever had the pleasure to become friends with. And he
I'm
was
sure he'll download this episode.
you know it. He was like, Jane, you better mention me. I'm looking at his bobblehead right now. I've got Kernan here. I got a great picture of me, Schoenheid, and Kernan on the wall, too.
Nice.
Brian, thanks so much.
Thank
And
you, Jane.
really appreciate you being here today on The Next Room. The Next Room, where we talk about everything about this chapter and what's next, the final chapter. And I appreciate your honesty and transparency and just being able to come on the show and encouraging people to go for it, whatever it is. So thanks again for listening to The Next Room. I will be back next week. I believe next week, if I can get her on, I have a very well-known psychic coming on out of Scotland. And she's got a very cool accent too. So it's really fun, but she's the real deal. I don't have psychics on unless I vet them first and make sure that they actually do indeed have that extra sense about them. So she's very talented, and I'm hoping I can connect with her. So I don't want to drop her name yet, but if I get her on, she'll be on in the next few weeks. Thanks again for listening to The Next Room.